Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Today I've just got a little story for you which shows how I learned a valuable and important lesson early on in my professional career, as a musician that is. Basically in 1988 I left where I'd been at college, which was in the English Lake District on the northwest of England, and moved back to the northeast of England where I was kind of born and brought up. Basically, I'd got a job back over here that I needed to move back for. And pretty soon after that, getting settled into the new job and everything, I started sort of hustling for a band to play with. And in time-honoured tradition, what I did was turn up at every local open mic night and jam night that I could find and just get up on my hind legs and do a turn. And eventually, after a little while, one guy who was at one of these nights approached me and said, yeah, I play bass in a rock band and our guitar player is going to be out of action for a while because he's got to go into hospital for an operation. It's going to be about a month and we've got gigs lined up to honour. Could you stand in for that time? I said, well, yeah, of course. I said, when's the first gig? He said, this is on a Tuesday, I think, when we were having this conversation. I said, when's the first gig? He said, oh, Saturday night. Okay, so I've got less than a week to learn the whole set then. You'd better tell me what's in the set. So he started reeling off a list of songs and, you know, of course, there was Billy Idol, White Wedding, and of course there was You Give Love a Bad Name, and of course there was Just Died in Your Arms Tonight by the Cutting Crew. And then he mentioned one song where it was all I could do not to have a bowel movement. Out in the Fields, Gary Moore and Phil Lynott. And if you're not familiar with the song, the link to it is in the description below. There is an absolutely ferocious guitar run in the solo that it started about 2 minutes 45, I think. And it's basically really fast alternate picking semi-quavers or 16th notes at about 180 beats per minute, which is, well, to this day, it's probably one of the fastest guitar runs I've ever heard. It's quite reassuring in retrospect to know that when Gary resurrected this song to put into his set, I think it was in the early 2000s, even he struggled to kind of get that run back up to speed. So that makes me feel better in retrospect. But what am I going to do? Because I can't play that run the way that Gary plays it. But there was a light at the end of the tunnel, because I've always been able to kind of slither around the neck doing hammer-ons and pull-offs pretty easily, and I've always had a pretty strong little finger. I think it comes from, you know, kind of years of trying to be Francis Rossi when I was an adolescent, you know, doing that kind of core boogie kind of thing. So I thought, well, maybe I could put some kind of run together that fits that situation. The run itself lasts about 4 bars, and it's, as I say, it's really fast picking. So what I did was sit down and with a tape recorder and record some chords and a metronome, just to kind of give me something to practice to. And I came up with a run like this. Which, to quote Eric Morecambe, is all the right notes, but not necessarily in the right order. And, you know, it kind of fitted the amount of space that the run needed to fill. And as long as I knew I could hit that big 20th fret bend at the end of that run at the right point, then everything else would pretty much line up. So, you know, I practiced it and learned the rest of the songs. I knew a lot of them anyway, to be honest with you, but I spent most of that remaining week practicing the Out in the Field solo. And when I got it up to speed, it ended up sounding like this. which kind of does the job, really. No, it's not the original run, and if you are a real Gary Moore kind of purist, you will spot that it's not the original run, but it conveys enough of the spirit of the run that's in the original solo to, you know, allow me to get away with it, basically. And I was a little bit on edge during that first gig as to, you know, am I going to get away with it? Is anybody going to spot it? And afterwards, after the gig, the bass player who had sort of recruited me at that jam night said, boy, you nailed that Gary Moore solo, didn't you? Well, no, actually I didn't. That's what I was thinking, but I didn't say that. He says, Tommy, who's the other guitarist, all he ever does is just kind of fast pick one string and slide his finger up just to create an impression of something fast going on. But he says, you know, you played it perfect off the record. Okay, and I'm thinking, no, I didn't, but you know, I'm not letting on. Anyway, I did the rest of the gigs with that band until the original guitarist, the guy whose slot I was filling, was match fit again, and it wasn't long after that that the phone started ringing, and I was starting to get, you know, kind of offers of, you know, can you come out and try out for this band? I became, I think, known as that guy who can play like Gary Moore, which I can't. To this day, I still can't, but a reputation like that does give you kind of a leg up when it comes to getting gigs, and, you know, eventually I ended up doing this for a living to this day. So the moral of the story, the important lesson I learned was, you know, play to your strengths. As I said, I'm good at doing all the slithery, hammer-on, pull-off, slidey sort of stuff around the neck. And, you know, don't be afraid to bluff your way through something from time to time. The obvious example of this is B.B. King. You know, he learned to bend strings because he wanted to sound like Booker White, his cousin, who was a slide guitarist. But B.B. could never, ever get his kind of mojo together when it came to playing with a slide. So he thought, how can I emulate that sound? And, you know, in the process invented his own style of playing and became an individual and became uniquely B.B. King. And I like to think that perhaps my little experience back then of, you know, kind of using the tools that I had available to do the job that needed doing was part of what made me the guitarist I am today, and gave me, hopefully, an identifiable kind of style of playing that is kind of me, really. So there you go. Play to your strengths, and don't be afraid to blag it every now and again. And that's the important lesson I learned, and it's served me pretty well in the intervening years. I hope you found this useful, informative, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. If you have, then why not hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you might as well give me a like while you're at it. And of course, I'll just mention the tuition thing at the moment. There are courses available on my website. They are taught through the Udemy tuition platform, and there's one like an entry level course on beginning to play lead guitar. There's a course which kind of demystifies the whole topic of modes and, you know, all the associated stuff that goes with that. And there's a brand new one that's just gone up this week, which is kind of an intermediate to possibly advanced, I don't know, blues guitar course. It's basically for any blues guitarist who is a little bit bored with just noodling around the minor pentatonic all the time, you know, if you want to take it to the next level. All the courses feature loads of tabs, loads of licks demonstrated and tabbed out, obviously, and loads of jam tracks, and everything is explained in plain, jargon-free English with an absolute minimum of techno babble. These courses are getting all kinds of nice things said about them on the review section of Udemy, and you can check them out via the URL that you can see on the screen, and the link is also in the description box below, along with the link to the Gary Moore song that we've been talking about today. So with that, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching, and I do look forward to seeing you all again next time around. Bye for now, folks.